Ladies and gentlemen, we the people, the salaried urban middle class of India, were seen as those with votes, but without a voice. Politicians either appease the super rich and powerful or would placate the poor with welfare sops and freebies. And guess who foots the bill for all of this outreach? Us, right? The middle class. But the winds of change were in the air, and the middle class has gotten vocal about the fact that it is being squeezed dry. When the much-awaited relief finally came in the form of the centre relaxing income tax slabs in the union budget, the middle class applauded in relief. And then it rewarded in kind. For the first time in recent history, it was the middle class that was instrumental in shaping an election verdict. The stupendous election scoreline that you see at the bottom of your screens has not just brought the BJP back from its 27-year-old exile in the national capital and sent the Aadmi party into political wilderness, it has also sent a message to the political class across the country that the middle class can punish and reward governments in equal measure. Is this just an exception in Delhi where the middle class holds a disproportionately large sway? Or is it the start of a pushback from the electorate that pays for India's vikas via its taxes? We will be discussing this theme throughout the show today with our guests. But first, let's put that question to some of India's top pollsters. We have Yashwant Deshmukh joining us this evening. So is Yogendra Yadav. So is Pradeep Gupta. And congratulations are in line for Pradeep Gupta, who's actually got his exit poll bang on. I'm going to start with Yogendra Yadav. Thank you all for joining us. Yogendra Yadav, you're the leader of Swarajya India. Sir, was this an election that the Aadmi has lost, or is this an election that the BJP has won?
Shreya, the question assumes that something huge has happened in this election. Yes, of course, in terms of electoral verdict, in terms of the fact that BJP got a chance after 30 years, it is big. It's a major setback for Aadmi party. But purely electorally, purely psychologically, what has happened is simply this. In the last two Lok Sabha elections, after the Lok Sabha election, about 15% of BJP voters, Modi supporters, used to shift to the Aadmi party. This time, instead of 15, it became only 7. The shift was there, but insufficient. Aadmi party trails the BJP only by 5 percentage points. So it's not as big as we think it is. The impact, of course, is very big. The political consequences are very big. To my mind, it's more a vote against Aadmi party than a vote for BJP. A significant proportion of BJP voters, Modi supporters in the Lok Sabha election, who would prefer Aadmi party in the assembly election, decided to stay put with the BJP. They did so because many of them thought that while free electricity is all right, DTC free ride for women is okay, but we also need something else. We need overall well-being in this city. We need cleaner city, possibly cleaner air. We need some infrastructure in the city, and they thought they were not getting it. Most of them were people who belong to what we call middle class, which is usually the upper end of the class spectrum in our country. That spectrum decided to stay back with Modi. And many of them also thought, कि ये रोज चिक-चिक होती है central government versus state government. And the fact is that Modi ji is ruling Delhi. तो चलो ये भी तो उन्हीं को मौका दे दो. So there was that element as well.
Mr. Yadav, did Delhi's middle class, now there's a question mark over how big this electorate is, how big this vote bank is, but it could be anywhere between 40 to 70% depending on how you define the middle class. Has this middle class bailed out on the Aadmi party because of the budget, because of the tax relief that was announced just 4 days ahead of polling?
That's a good place to start the analysis from. I should begin by saying that there's nothing middle about what we call middle class in India. Middle class in India is a euphemism for the top 10 percentile of India and the top 25 percentile of Delhi. The fact is that many of them used to vote for Aam Aadmi Party, although they overwhelmingly prefer Mr. Modi for Lok Sabha election. A substantial bit in that voted for Aam Aadmi Party. And these are precisely the ones who decided to stay back this time with Mr. Modi in the assembly election as well. They came to Aam Aadmi Party with some possibility that this party looks different than others. They are doing things which are good. And somehow in the last 4 or 5 years, that sheen has worn off. Delhi people may not believe that Arvind Kejriwal is personally corrupt. But on corruption front, his party doesn't look very different from any other party. People may not believe in all those stories about Sheesh Mahal, but they see a deep contradiction between what the Aam Aadmi Party promised. कोठी नहीं लेंगे, सरकारी बंगला नहीं लेंगे, सरकारी गाड़ी नहीं लेंगे, and where they have ended. So what looked like a temple now looks like a shop. And when you go to a shop, then you do a transaction. You say, okay, क्या मिलेगा, क्या दोगे, साथ वाली दुकान में क्या मिल रहा है. That's the frame people come in. And that's what happened with the Aam Aadmi Party as well.
But was it the budget alone and the easing of taxes alone that directly helped the BJP in the last leg in the slog overs?
I think it did. The budget, more than the budget, the huge media publicity that followed it, BJP's capacity to amplify that message, and allow me to say, Election Commission's deafening silence on this. Please remember that Mr. Rajiv Kumar, the Chief Election Commissioner, was asked this question when Delhi elections were announced. Sir, budget will be announced 4 days before that. He said, I will make sure that there is no Delhi specific announcement in the budget. It should not tilt the level playing ground. Not only does the finance minister make this announcement, next day Prime Minister says, this is the best budget for middle classes. And just in case you had any doubt, BJP issues an advertisement saying Modi's gift to Delhi. What was the Chief Election Commissioner doing at that point? That's a question that should be asked.
So has this election shown us that India's middle class, that bears the burden of paying taxes and that gets royally ignored during elections, that too has a voice, that if political parties ignore that voice, you ignore that at your own peril? Or is Delhi an exception, given that almost 40 to 70% of the city is middle class, depending on how you define it?
You know, they are sops for the poor, for the women, etc. Is this election?
The middle class may have had a decisive impact in Delhi election, specifically because the election result is actually close. It's only 5 percentage point. 2.5 percentage point this side or that would have changed the entire election outcome. Because what we call middle class is disproportionately large in a city like Delhi, because BJP already has a very substantial presence in Delhi. All these things made this unusual situation where the vote of this middle class may have made a decisive difference. But I believe that it would not have been the case if Aam Aadmi Party had indeed carried out some of those structural reforms, some of those infrastructural changes. Irrespective of the budget, Aam Aadmi Party would have won if they were somewhat truer to what they promised to do.
Sir, look at Arvind Kejriwal's profile, look at Manish Sisodia's profile, look at Saurabh Bharadwaj's profile. They are all urban, upper middle class. So, has Delhi sent out a message when Delhi defeats these three in their own constituencies as well?
major setback. It's a setback for Aam Aadmi Party, but it's not a setback only for Aam Aadmi Party. The other opposition parties cannot take vicarious pleasure in the defeat of Aam Aadmi Party. The setback for Aam Aadmi Party is much bigger than the numbers might suggest. In terms of numbers, as I've said repeatedly, it's only 5 percentage point. Losing one election after two spectacular victories is, after all, not such a major setback. Party do come back after that. But given the Aam Aadmi Party's nature, given the Aam Aadmi Party's complete dependence on Arvind Kejriwal, given the Aam Aadmi Party's complete dependence on Delhi city, this defeat is much bigger than the figures might suggest. It is a morale-shattering defeat that Aam Aadmi Party would take a long time to recover from, especially because they cannot possibly repeat their performance in Gujarat. Haryana is already a no-go situation, and Punjab doesn't look like very good prospects for them. So tough times for Aam Aadmi Party ahead. At the same time, it's not just Aam Aadmi Party. It is a setback for all those who believed and hoped for a model of alternative politics. And it is a setback for the entire opposition because BJP does not believe merely in electorally defeating one party or the other. BJP aims at nothing short of complete dominance. So I suspect that the electoral defeat would be followed by attempts to finish Aam Aadmi Party. And these attempts will not be limited only to Aam Aadmi Party. So it's time for the entire opposition to come together and to really set the one-upmanship aside and think of something big.
Mr. Yadav, we leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on what has been a terrible day for the Aam Aadmi Party, a party that you were once associated with. Thank you so much. Pradeep Gupta of Access My India joins us next. Mr. Gupta, thank you very much. And I must say that congratulations are in line, given that your exit poll got it absolutely right.
Thank you very much to Access My India team. They are full credit goes to them who worked in ground and in back office.
Sir, since you predicted this win fairly accurately for the BJP, can you tell us who deserted the Aam Aadmi Party? Who changed loyalties? Was it just the middle class or were there other groups as well?
So three things: when people vote, they evaluate the performance of the incumbent government very carefully, what they have promised and what they delivered in last 5 years. And they found this time, our people goes and ask people why you are shifting, whomsoever you are shifting to, क्यों vote कर रहे हो? तो they said, अब अरविंद केजरीवाल और आम आदमी पार्टी वो बात नहीं रही जो पहले होती थी. We said, we asked क्यों? कुछ खास वजह आप ऐसा क्यों कह रहे हैं? 3 अकाउंट. वन इज दैट कि बोला आप ये देखिए ना, 5 साल में कुछ भी ऐसा काम नहीं किया जिसको बताया जा सके. काम तो सभी करते हैं. नोटेबल, जिसको एक वर्ड यूज होता है इंग्लिश में, नोटेबल, वो नहीं किया. दूसरा, पंजाब अभी इन्होंने 2100 रुपए का वादा किया केजरीवाल की गारंटी के तहत, लेकिन पंजाब में तो अभी तक पूरा नहीं किया. तीसरा, जो एक पोजीशनिंग थी उनकी, एक प्रोजेक्ट किया था उन्होंने अपनी इमेज को कि आम आदमियों की तरह हम रहेंगे, तो बंगला, गाड़ी वगैरह वगैरह सब तो ले ली अभी. एक अब तो आम आदमी रहे नहीं. तो इन अ वे, एंड जो बैड परफॉर्मेंस की बात कर ले गवर्नमेंट की, तो गार्बेज कलेक्शन, दो इट इज अ मैटर ऑफ एमसीडी, म्युनिसिपैलिटी, बट दैट इज वेयर द आम आदमी पार्टी इज देयर. And the quality of drinking water, these are the things which touch across the base, and quality of roads, these three, and of course air quality, but air quality even God doesn't know who is responsible for in Delhi, so even people does not know. And the kind of image he has projected for himself, the Arvind Kejriwal, the honest person, that has dented a lot in last 5 years. On the other side, BJP has come out with Modi ki guarantee as against Arvind Kejriwal ki guarantee, and they promised 2,500 rupees to women account and 2 gas cylinder. These are the all free gas cylinder. This is also touch across the demography or the geography of the Delhi, and people believed in Modi ki guarantee. And when they try and do the evaluation of both the government, the state and central, they found is central government has done far better than the state government, and they give verdict accordingly.
But sir, Delhi has shown us by way of it voting one way in the Lok Sabha elections and one way in the assembly elections that it likes Mr. Modi and it likes Mr. Kejriwal as well. It will give 7 out of 7 seats in the Lok Sabha elections to Mr. Modi, but give 68 seats and 62 seats in the assembly, in an assembly of 70 to Mr. Kejriwal. Has Mr. Kejriwal messed up to such an extent? Was there anger in the middle class against Mr. Kejriwal to such an extent that they voted him out of power, and how?
In bulk, Dalit, Mahila, and middle class shifted in bulk in the as high as 15 percentage points. Last time in assembly election, BJP secured 30% vote among female. This time it has risen to 46 percentage points. These are the points, these are the percentage. So 16% jump is too much a jump. And then in middle class also, it as high as 20 points shift. And Dalit also. So these are the three demography which has done the trick in favor of BJP.
Okay, so you're saying there's a 20-point shift as far as the middle class is concerned. It has shifted from the Aam Aadmi Party to the BJP. Remember, the Aam Aadmi Party, when it was born some 13 years ago, some of its biggest and most vocal supporters were the middle class in this country. And that is a class that now it seems has deserted the Aam Aadmi Party for various reasons. Can I ask you then whether it is just disillusionment or also the fact that 4 days ahead of elections, ahead of voting, the BJP did what will now be called a master stroke: lessen the tax burden on the middle class in this country. So when you do that, people who don't know who to vote for, I like Kejriwal, but I like Modi too, they then make up their minds and say, this guy is directly benefiting us. वैसे तो सारी political parties एक जैसी होती हैं. Let me vote for the BJP this time and see.
All put together things. One is the credibility and the performance of the Kejriwal. Second is the, on the other side, the budget. And in budget, I mean, it cannot be better than this as far as the income tax and as far as the middle class benefits goes. It cannot be better than this for sure. The shift of 7.5 lakh rupees limit to 12 lakh rupees is too much. I mean, 1 lakh is something. In Delhi, particularly in national capital city, people are middle class, particularly between 75 to 1 lakh plus kind of a thing. I'm talking about the middle class, bulk of them. And this was like gift for them. And also, they also see the, and over a period of time, people want change. They want to change and try something new. And they found the BJP is the best alternative at this point of time.
That's true. And it is not my argument or anyone's argument that it was one single factor that has led to the defeat of the Aam Aadmi Party and the victory of the BJP. But sir, with this election, will it now be difficult for political parties to ignore the middle class in this country? Because what is said of the middle class? All very well for the middle class to say they pay taxes, but the fact is, and they crib and crib and crib. But they are also a class that doesn't vote. They are a non-voting class, which is why political parties don't take them seriously. Has that changed, sir, with this election?
That's true. That's true. That's absolutely true. But दिल्ली के अंदर उनकी संख्या ही 60% है, तो बड़ी संख्या में वोट करते हैं दिल्ली में. This doesn't hold good. But upper class, yes, it hold good कि वो बहुत कम संख्या में वोट करने आते हैं. Even in Delhi, तो उस हिसाब से न्यू दिल्ली का देख लीजिए, केवल 61,000 total vote, 60 vote cast, 61,000. That is where Arvind Kejriwal lost the election by 4,000 votes.
That is true, but you know, look at Delhi's polling percentage. My point is, it is 60.54. should be shameful for, a city where almost everyone has an education and almost 60% of the city's population qualifies as middle class. The least you can do is come out and vote. Because if you don't do that, no one will, at least political parties will not take you seriously. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pradeep Gupta, for joining us. Can I welcome Yashwant Deshmukh, founder and chief editor of C Voter, onto the show as well. Mr. Deshmukh, I'll continue with the theme of this discussion. Even if my questions are a bit repetitive, please bear with me. And that's a request I'm making to our viewers as well. Mr. Deshmukh, why did Delhi's middle class abandon a party they had powered 13 years ago? After all, this was a party that had offered an alternative, a party that spoke the language of the middle class when it raised issues of corruption.
If you want to just analyze on one single focus thing that, okay, what went wrong was that middle class left Aam Aadmi Party and shifted to BJP. Normally, this middle class was largely the section which used to swing between Vidhan Sabha and Lok Sabha voters, elections between Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP. Correct. So basically, considering that they used to be fan of Prime Minister Modi as well as Kejriwal both. But somewhere down the lane, that swing, the pendulum which used to go from one end to the other in Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha, this time in Lok Sabha, when it went to the BJP, it refused to come back. It got stuck there. So I guess this is one of those elections. I remember in 1998, when we were doing the exit poll and post poll, that time no TV, no social media, we used to do it for newspapers. And newspaper headline the next day morning, based on our exit poll, was that middle class has shown the back to the BJP. Now there's the same middle class after 27 years, which has brought BJP back into power. It's an amazing story to tell. And the thing with the middle class is BJP always felt that this is a middle class which supports us sitting in the drawing room but never really comes out to vote. I guess that what Nirmala Sitharaman has done this time is that gave the middle class reason enough to be excited to come out and vote. That's the big difference. That is where Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal miscalculated what BJP could do. They thought middle class naraz hai, no problem, ghar baith jayega, it doesn't matter. We have the low income group, the Dalit, the Jhuggi Jhopdi, the Muslim and everything with us. And which is actually understandable because they still managed to poll 43-44% votes. The bottom of the pyramid has voted for them. But the middle class did not. The middle class, in fact, came out big numbers and substantially big number to turn the apple cart and voted in favor of the BJP.
But sir, can lowering taxes, that too only from the lower end of the tax-paying spectrum, actually turn an election?
No, it is not just that. Please try to understand. All that budget did was to make them enthusiastic enough to come out and vote. The real damage actually happened way before, which was the dismantling of the image of Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal, that they came cruising on the wave of anti-corruption Andolan and everything. They had a USP of being an anti-corruption crusader, of being honest and everything in between. I think that image went for a toss. The moment the liquor scandal came out, the Sheesh Mahal damage, that image did hurt the middle class because it was the middle class in Delhi which went to the Ram Leela grounds. Please remember that. It forms the narrative, and that gave Aam Aadmi Party the winning edge. Aam Aadmi Party could always count on the 45% block of the low-income group, minorities and Dalits and Jhuggi Jhopdi. But it was the 10% addition to that of the middle-class voters, which took their 45% to 55% and gave them 67-3, 62-8 kind of verdict. Now, that has gone. And I think something which Aam Aadmi Party did not realize was the fact that the image damage was real and they could not have that winning edge without this middle class backing them. So this is something which BJP was working on. They realized this is the Delhi middle class which votes for the BJP in the Lok Sabha election. That means they like Prime Minister Modi, but they love Arvind Kejriwal. They love Arvind Kejriwal because he happens to be seen by the middle class as the anti-corruption man. And so if there is a campaign on their corruption, that will get disheartened, disenchanted, and they will move away from Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party. But that campaign alone was not good enough to ensure that they moved away, but they still are not coming out and vote for the BJP. And this is what Nirmala Sitharaman did. That she converted that passive vote into an active vote. You see. So to answer your question, it is not that budget was only responsible. No, the damage was done. What budget did was to ensure that this middle class enthusiastically comes out and vote for the BJP.
Mr. Yashwant Deshmukh, good to get you on the show. Thank you so much. Mr. Yadav, Mr. Deshmukh and Mr. Gupta, thank you for your time here on Mirror Now. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I'm slipping into a quick break on the show. The discussion continues with our guests. Also coming up, we hear the winners, we hear the losers as well. Do stay with us.